This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm joined by what I imagine is a tired Gary Lockett after the day you've had. Gary, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks.
It's good to hear. Obviously you've had an eventful day, so we'll try and we'll keep it to kind of a minimum. Jay Harris fight week. It's been a frustrating period for Jay, I can imagine. I spoke to him earlier, and after the Julio Cesar Martinez fight, he said he immediately wanted to try and get back into the world scene. And I made the point to him, does he feel that because of how good of a performance it gave him that fight, it would make it difficult for somebody to take him as a voluntary defense? Now he's here, he's in an eliminator. What do you make of this past year and a half, Gary?
I think it is what it is. Obviously when Jay boxed Julio Cesar Martinez, it was a fantastic performance. It was a lot closer than what the scorecards gave it, and we came away from the fight, very, very happy. I know Jay obviously wasn't happy that he got beat, but I think he showed that he belongs at that world level because nobody put a dent in Martinez up until that point, did they? So I think Jay gave him a very good fight. I don't think Martinez ever really worked him out over the 12 rounds. Okay, he won the fight, but it wasn't by a great deal. So, Jay's success in that fight, it became obviously, it became his enemy, really, what he did, his worst enemy, because he became a danger man for anybody who wanted to make a voluntary. So they're not ever going to pick Jay for a voluntary because of the performance that he gave against Martinez. So yeah, it was frustrating, but MCK managed to get him a fight against Marcel Braithwaite, and he was a tough little hombre. Was Marcel? Gave Jay a really good fight, but I think I don't think Jay was at his best. That's no disrespect to Marcel, because I think Marcel can go on and win the British title probably, but I just think with Jay, the things that he does, I've always worried about from the start. He just stands that little bit tall, and he just goes back in straight lines sometimes. And I just think Marcel exploited that. But I think maybe with Jay boxing in front of that crowd in Texas, where he had fear, then going to someone like Marcel, no disrespect to him, he lost twice. I don't think Jay had any fear of Marcel, and perhaps he just underperformed or maybe underestimated Marcel subconsciously. So it has been frustrating, but at least Jay did get a fight in a good 10 rounds, and that stands him in good stead for this fight on Friday night against Sandoval.
Talking about Sandoval, Gary, go back to again originally, the delay from when the fight was meant to take place in May up until now. I asked Jay this. I've spoken to fighters after they fought on a rescheduled date, and they can admit to me after the fought, obviously, that they might have felt a little burnt out in the build up to it, because some of them, they might, even if they only have a week off, you're pushing effectively maybe a 16-week camp if you're going through it. How have you guys gone about making sure that that Jay doesn't feel burnt out in preparations for Ricardo?
Yeah, well, I think Jay's got he's got two old heads behind him. Not just myself, his dad who trains him as well. So Peter's a sensible guy, and also Jay is his son, so he'll see before anybody when Jay's kind of going stale or burning out. So I told Jay to have a good week, maybe 10 days off, when we were told that the fight was going to be put back a couple of months. And I think Jay did that. But I think, Jay is one of those guys where he doesn't really like to take his foot off the gas too much. And I don't think he did. But no, I think he did have a substantial rest. And even then, when he came back, I don't think he went back to sort of training twice, 3 times a day. I think for the first couple of weeks when he came back, I think he was sort of sticking to once a day. And then he stepped it up then about 5 weeks before.
This extra time to work on the fight, though, Gary, work to get a game plan together. What extra have you learned about Ricardo Sandoval, and what should everybody expect from the pair of them when they are in the ring on Friday night?
Well, look, it's got the ingredients to be a cracker, isn't it? And not from my point, I don't really want it to be a cracker. I want Jay to box his head off. But you know, Jay's got that. He's from a place called Townhill in Swansea, where they all fight. They're all fighters down there, so he's got that Townhill in him. So I don't think we're going to be able to. We're not going to be able to get him to stick the boxing for 12 rounds. But I just think that Sandoval he's at low center of gravity. Fights out a good low center of gravity. He's got a good jab. I don't think he's really sharp. I think he's quite powerful, but he's more heavy-handed than sharp. Seems a good little boxer that sets his shots up really well. But having said that, I don't think there's anybody on Sandoval's record that Jay Harris couldn't beat. But Jay Harris has been in with Martinez, and I don't think Sandoval's any Martinez either. So, you know, I think Jay has to be at his best. But if he is at his best, I think I can see him coming out of this with a good victory.
Because of the point that I raised earlier, Gary, about kind of how people might not look at Jay and think I'd give him a voluntary defence again, going back to that Martinez performance. How much pressure is there on him to be successful on Friday night because it's an eliminator for the world title held by Sonny Edwards?
Yeah, it's a massive fight. I think the only pressure on Jay is the pressure that he puts on himself. I don't think anybody else is going to put any pressure on him. I know what you're saying, but I mean, look, this is what we're in the sport for, the big fights. And with the big fights comes the pressure, doesn't it? So it's an IBF title fight, eliminator. And, you know, it is a massive fight. So both fighters are going to feel pressure. Sandoval's coming over from America. He's traveling for the first time. Let's not forget that. We don't really know how he's found coming over here. He's on foreign soil for the first time, so don't really know how he's going to react. But Jay Harris has been prepared for the best Ricardo Sandoval that there is. And as I say, you know, he's a good fighter. He's 18 wins, 13 stoppages. He looks like he'll whack a little bit. So Jay has to use that boxing ability that he's got rather than sort of going looking for him and looking to get into a scrap.
Gary, a potential fight between Jay and Sonny Edwards. I asked him this earlier. I'll ask you yourself. How big of a fight would that be? I know you've got the obvious Wales and England rivalry, but then aside from that, they both know each other from amateurs, of shadowing in sparring. Their names have always been kind of touted as potential matchup at some point. How big of a fight could it be?
Well, it'd be a massive fight, wouldn't it? Because obviously two British guys fighting for a world title, you don't get that very often. I think the last one that I can remember as a flyweight was Dave McCauley against Dave McCauley, Duke McKenzie, I think. I'm going back now. I'm showing my age. It was Duke McKenzie against Dave Boy McCauley. I think. I might be wrong there. I'll probably get bloody probably get slaughtered for this now. But I can remember that fight being a massive fight. And you know, you don't often get it, especially with the lower weights as well. And it would be, you know, look, you know, Sonny's very, very good boxer, and you know, he's coming off an absolutely brilliant victory. But you know, if he fights Jay, then he'll need to be a little bit different tactics. I think, you know, Jay is a little bit sharper than what the South African kid was. And look, it's going to be a great fight if it happens. But look, we can't look that far ahead. We can't look past Friday. And obviously, Jay's got to get the job done Friday because it's a very tough fight.
Julio Cesar Martinez actually fights on Saturday night, I believe, as well. Just to touch on him, Sonny Edwards once again has been mentioned as a possible fight for him. How would you think Sonny fares against Julio Cesar Martinez if the pair of them were to meet?
I think Sonny would do really well against him because obviously, you know, anybody that stands with Martinez, you know, you're in a world of trouble. And Jay said he's not the hardest hitter he's been in with, but he said he's very sort of explosive, but he doesn't stop punching. He doesn't throw one or two land and then stop. He just keeps on. He's relentless and he's very heavy-handed. So, you know, Sonny's not going to stand in front of him. And, you know, if anybody's got the tools to beat Martinez, it would be Sonny, you know, back foot boxer who can make him miss and counter him.
Gary, just a few more from me before I let you go. A few fights upcoming. I just want to get your thoughts on. Obviously, last time we spoke, everybody was anticipating an AJ Fury undisputed bout. That's obviously no longer the case. Instead, we'll see a Fury Wilder trilogy and what seems most likely AJ versus Usyk. Firstly, the trilogy between Fury and Wilder. Are you expecting anything different this time around?
Well, I'm going to say no, but then when I make such sort of pinpoint decisions, such rush decisions, where I'm very sure about something, it always comes back to bite me on the backside. So no, I mean, my initial thought is the strange behaviour from Wilder in the press conference with the headphones, and he just doesn't seem to be his mind on. He seems to be making lots of excuses and still moaning about the last fight. So, I think he's doing the right things with his new trainer. I think, like, I've seen some of the pad work and the things that Malik Scott's trying. It is Malik Scott, isn't it? That's training him.
Yep.
That's right. So the things that Malik Scott is trying to do to him, he's trying to take him back to basics and trying to teach him just a little bit of patience, just to use his jab and let the power shots come. I think that's exactly the right thing to do. But I don't think one training camp is going to be enough to beat a guy of Tyson Fury's repertoire. Definitely not.
The other fight, AJ Usyk, like I say, it seems to be the one which will happen. Your take on that one?
As much as, I've watched Usyk since he was an amateur, and as much as I admire the guy, I just don't think it's there as a heavyweight. The couple of times that I've seen him as a heavyweight, there's just something missing. Whether it's power, whether it's size, I really don't know. I mean, he's got the mobility, but he just doesn't. It's just, for me, there's something missing. But again, what I said earlier, he could come back to bite me on the backside, and he performs really well. But I just see AJ just being just too big and strong, and just too seasoned at the weight.
Final one, Joe Joyce and Carlos Takam.
Yeah.
What are you expecting from that, Gary?
Punch up. I think Taklam's clever. I think if you watch when Taklam fought Anthony Joshua, the tactics were really good. He stayed low, he was in and he was out, and he didn't really take a lot of shots clean, obviously, until the end when he got knocked out. But I thought that obviously he was behind on points, but I think for the time it lasted, I think he showed that, he is at that level. Whereas I think Joe Joyce is a different animal. He appears to be slow, people look at him and they don't think he's very good. You hear it from everyone, but look, you don't win what he won in the amateurs and what he's won in the pros by being slow and not being very good. He's obviously very, very good, very strong, and he hits like a mule. So I'm expecting Joe Joyce to probably stop Carlos Takam late.
Well, Gary, we've spoken boxing. Have you been enjoying the Euros?
Yeah, just got on in the background here.
I could tell you was getting distracted by it.
No, 2 penalties that weren't penalties. I just don't know. This isn't football anymore for me. Just the slightest thing in the box and they're giving penalties. But really enjoying it so far. Obviously, Wales through to the next round. Obviously, they're underdogs. Great to see England going through as well. Sad Scotland didn't go through, but yeah, look, I'm a big football fan. I'm a Liverpool fan, so I'm a Premier League football fan. So there's a lot of people don't want England to do well from the Celtic nations, but I'm not one of them. Obviously, I want Wales to win, first and foremost. But if Wales can't win it, then why not England?
All right, Gary, we will leave that there now. I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of whichever game you're watching, because there are 2-1 at the minute. I appreciate your time, mate. Thanks, Speaks Boxing Social.
No problem. Thanks very much.